A fiery clash erupts on Fox News as Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt lock horns over the Trump trials, sparking chaos and a shocking collapse that divides America. The studio lights burned hot, casting sharp shadows across the polished desk where Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat, her posture rigid, eyes locked on her opponent. Across from her, Karoline Leavitt, the 27-year-old White House press secretary, adjusted her notes, her youthful confidence barely masking a flicker of unease. The Fox News host, a seasoned mediator with a knack for stoking flames, leaned forward, his voice smooth but laced with anticipation. "Ladies, the Trump trials have America at a breaking point. Congresswoman, you've called Trump's claims of a rigged judicial system dangerous. Why?" Crockett didn't hesitate. Her voice, steady and commanding, cut through the air. "Donald Trump's been screaming rigged every time a gavel drops, and it's not just noise, it's a wrecking ball. He's eroding trust in our courts, for his own gain, and that's a betrayal of every American who believes in justice." She leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "This isn't about one man, it's about a system he's trying to burn down to save himself." Leavitt's lips tightened, but she responded with practiced poise. "With all due respect, Congresswoman, you're missing the bigger picture. President Trump speaks for millions who feel the system's been weaponized against them, not just him. Look at the DOJ, the FBI, the endless investigations. People see a double standard, and he's calling it out." Her voice carried a rehearsed conviction, but her hands betrayed her, fidgeting slightly as she spoke. Crockett's eyes narrowed, a spark of indignation flaring. "A double standard? Let's talk about that. I've seen what happens when the system fails people who don't have Trump's money or platform. I grew up in communities where justice was a privilege, not a right. Black families, poor families, they don't get to scream rigged and have the world listen. Trump's not their hero, he's their hijacker." Her words landed like a punch, raw and personal, drawing a murmur from the studio crew. Leavitt shifted in her seat, her composure fraying at the edges. "That's a powerful story, Congresswoman, but it doesn't change the facts. The trials, the timing, the judges, they all raise questions. President Trump's asking what many Americans are: why does justice feel selective?" Her tone was sharp now, a defensive edge creeping in as she tried to reclaim ground. The host seized the moment, his eyes glinting. "Congresswoman, is this personal? For you? Are you saying Trump's claims have no merit because of your own experiences?" The question was a trap, designed to push Crockett into a corner, but she didn't flinch. "Personal? You bet it's personal," Crockett shot back, her voice rising. "I've seen what happens when power protects itself. I've sat with mothers who lost sons to a system that didn't blink. Trump's not exposing injustice, he's exploiting it, and that's a slap in the face to every family who's fought for fairness." The studio felt smaller now, the air thick with tension as her words hung between them. Leavitt's face flushed, her youth suddenly stark against Crockett's seasoned intensity. "You're twisting this," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "President Trump's fighting for accountability, not chaos. You're making this about race, about division, when it's about fairness for everyone." The accusation was bold, but it faltered under Crockett's unwavering stare. "Fairness?" Crockett's laugh was sharp, cutting. "Tell that to the folks who've been screaming about unfairness for decades and got nothing but silence. Trump's fairness is a mirror, Karoline. It only reflects him." The room went quiet, the weight of her words sinking in. Leavitt opened, her mouth to respond, but her breath caught, her hands gripping the desk as if to steady herself. The host's eyes widened, sensing the moment slipping toward chaos. "Let's keep this civil, ladies," he interjected, but the warning felt hollow. Leavitt's face was pale now, her confidence crumbling under the pressure. Crockett leaned back, her expression unyielding, as if daring her to push further. The studio lights seemed to pulse, the air electric with the promise of something breaking. The cameras zoomed in, catching every flicker of emotion as the Fox News set crackled with raw tension. Karoline Leavitt's hands trembled on the desk, her pale face a stark contrast to Jasmine Crockett's unyielding stare. The host's plea for civility hung in the air, ignored, as the confrontation barreled forward. Leavitt took a shaky breath, her voice tight but determined. "You're painting this as a one-sided story, Congresswoman. President Trump's exposing a truth you don't want to face. The system's been twisted to target him and his supporters." Crockett's eyes flashed, her voice low but razor-sharp. "Twisted? Karoline, the only thing twisted is Trump's narrative. He's not a victim. He's a strategist. He cries rigged to rally his base, not to fix anything. You're defending a man who'd sell out those supporters if it saved his skin." Her words were deliberate, each one landing like a jab, and the studio crew exchanged uneasy glances. Leavitt's jaw tightened, her youth suddenly a liability under Crockett's relentless pressure. "That's unfair," she shot back, her voice rising. "You're dismissing millions of Americans who see what's happening. The DOJ's actions, the timing of these trials, it's not coincidence. It's a coordinated attack, and Trump's the only one brave enough to call it out." Her words were defiant, but her delivery wavered, a crack in her polished facade. Crockett leaned forward, her presence commanding the room. "Brave? Let's talk bravery. Brave is a single mother fighting a broken system to keep her kids fed. Brave is speaking truth when power's breathing down your neck. Trump's not brave, he's desperate, and you're carrying his water." Her tone was fire, personal and unapologetic, drawing a gasp from the audience. The host shifted uncomfortably, his control slipping further. Leavitt's eyes glistened, her composure fraying. "You're making this personal again," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm here to talk facts, not stories. The fact is, these trials are politicized. The fact is, Americans don't trust the system anymore. Why can't you admit that?" Her attempt to redirect was desperate, her hands gripping the desk as if anchoring herself. Crockett didn't blink. "Because your facts are Trump's talking points, not reality. You want to talk trust? I've lived in communities where trust in the system was broken long before Trump ever touched a courtroom. Black folks, Latino folks, poor folks, they've been screaming about unfairness for generations. Where was Trump then? He only cares now because it's his neck on the line." Her voice rose, fierce and unflinching, and the studio felt like it was holding its breath. The host tried to intervene, his voice strained. "Congresswoman, let's stick to the trials. Do you believe the judicial process is fair in Trump's case?" The question was meant to diffuse, but it only poured fuel on the fire. "Fair?" Crockett's laugh was sharp, cutting through the tension. "The process is bending over backwards to accommodate him. Private jets to court, endless appeals, media circus. He's getting kid gloves most defendants only dream of. Fairness isn't his problem, accountability is." Her words were a challenge, daring Leavitt to counter. Leavitt's face flushed, her voice shaking with frustration. "That's not true. The media, the judges, the leaks, it's all stacked against him. You're ignoring the pressure he's under, the scrutiny. He's fighting for his life." Her outburst was raw, her polished demeanor crumbling as emotion took over. Crockett's expression hardened, her voice cold. "Fighting for his life? Tell that to the families who've lost everything to a system that didn't care. Trump's fighting for his ego, not his life, and you're out here selling it like it's a crusade." The room went silent, the weight of her words suffocating. Leavitt's breath hitched, her eyes darting to the host, then the floor as if searching for an escape. The host's voice broke the silence, tinged with urgency. "We're getting heated here, let's take a breath." But the words were futile. Leavitt's hands shook violently now, her face drained of color. Crockett sat back, her gaze unrelenting, as if sensing the breaking point was near. The studio lights flickered, the air thick with the promise of collapse. The Fox News set felt like a pressure cooker, the air heavy with unspoken accusations. As Karoline Leavitt's trembling hands betrayed her unraveling composure, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's piercing stare held steady, her silence louder than any retort. The host's call for a pause was a faint echo, drowned by the intensity of the moment. Leavitt's shallow breaths were audible now, her eyes darting between Crockett and the desk, as if searching for a lifeline. The studio crew stood frozen, sensing the confrontation teetering on the edge of something irreversible. Crockett broke the silence, her voice calm but laced with steel. "You look shaken, Karoline. Is it because you know Trump's narrative doesn't hold up? Or because you're realizing the weight of defending it?" Her words were precise, cutting through the tension like a blade, and the audience leaned forward, captivated by the raw power of her delivery. Leavitt's head snapped up, her voice cracking with defiance. "I'm shaken because you're turning this into a personal attack. I'm here to defend a principle, the idea that no one, not even a former president, should face a biased system. You're making this about me, about him, when it's about justice." Her words were forceful, but her trembling hands and faltering tone undermined her resolve. Crockett's lips curved into a faint, unyielding smile. "Justice? You keep saying that word, but I don't think it means what you think it does. Justice isn't a shield for the powerful to dodge accountability. It's a lifeline for the people who've been crushed by the system Trump claims to fight. You're not defending justice. You're defending privilege." Her voice was steady, each word a hammer striking at Leavitt's weakening defenses. The host, sensing the spiraling chaos, tried to steer the conversation. "Let's focus on the trials themselves. Congresswoman, do you believe the evidence against Trump is strong?" His voice was firm, but his eyes betrayed his unease, flickering toward Leavitt's pale face. Crockett didn't miss a beat. "The evidence? It's a mountain, and Trump's team knows it. Documents, testimonies, recordings. It's not speculation, it's fact. But he's not fighting facts, he's fighting perception, spinning a story to keep his base loyal. That's not justice, that's manipulation." Her tone was fierce, her gaze locked on Leavitt, who seemed to shrink under the weight of the words. Leavitt's voice was barely above a whisper now, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You're so sure of yourself, aren't you? You think you've got it all figured out, but you're ignoring the other side. Millions of Americans see these trials as a witch hunt. They trust Trump because he's exposing what's been hidden for years." Her words were meant to sting, but they came out fragile, a last-ditch effort to regain footing. Crockett leaned forward, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "Exposing what exactly? A system that's let him skate for decades? Tax evasion? Lawsuits? Allegations? He's been dodging accountability his whole life. Now he's caught, and suddenly the system's the villain? Spare me, Karoline. The only thing he's exposing is his own desperation." The studio was deathly quiet, the weight of her words pressing down on everyone in the room. Leavitt's breath hitched, her hands clenching into fists. "You're twisting everything. He's fighting for people who feel forgotten, people who see the elites in Washington rigging the game. Why can't you see their anger?" Her voice broke, a mix of frustration and desperation, as she struggled to hold her ground. Crockett's eyes softened for a moment, but her voice remained firm. "I see their anger. I've lived it. But Trump's not their savior. He's their salesman. He's using their pain to save himself, and you're helping him do it. That's not leadership. That's betrayal." Her words were a gut punch, raw and unapologetic, and Leavitt's face crumpled, her composure hanging by a thread. The host's voice cut in, strained and urgent. "We're running hot here, let's dial it back." But the plea was futile. Leavitt's hands shook uncontrollably, her breaths coming in sharp gasps. Crockett sat back, her expression unreadable, as if bracing for the inevitable. The studio lights seemed to dim, the air charged with the certainty of an impending explosion. The Fox News desk gleamed under the harsh lights, but the atmosphere was suffocating, as if the room itself were holding its breath. Karoline Leavitt's gasps punctuated the silence, her face ghostly pale, her hands clutching the edge of the desk like a lifeline. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat motionless, her eyes locked on Leavitt, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the younger woman's unraveling. The host's desperate call to dial it back dissolved into the charged air, ignored by both women as the confrontation hurtled toward its breaking point. Leavitt's voice, brittle and shaking, broke the tense pause. "You think you can just sit there and lecture me about betrayal? I'm standing up for people who feel voiceless, people who see Trump as their only hope against a system that's turned on them." Her words were raw, almost pleading, but they cracked under the strain, her breath hitching as she fought to maintain control. Crockett's expression didn't waver, her voice steady and cutting. "Voiceless? Karoline, the voiceless don't have private jets and Mar-a-Lago. Trump's not their champion, he's their con man. He's hijacked their pain to dodge his own reckoning, and you're out here amplifying his lies." Her words were surgical, each one stripping away Leavitt's defenses, and the studio crew exchanged nervous glances, sensing the moment spiraling. Leavitt's eyes flashed with a mix of anger and desperation. "You're so quick to judge. You don't know what it's like to fight for something bigger than yourself, to stand up to the machine that's trying to crush him and everyone who supports him." Her voice rose, trembling with emotion, but her body betrayed her, her shoulders hunching as if the weight of the debate were physically crushing her. Crockett leaned forward, her voice low and unrelenting. "I've been fighting the machine my whole life, Karoline. I've stood in courtrooms for people who had nothing but their truth. You think Trump's fighting for anyone but himself? Wake up. He's using you, using his supporters, to keep his empire intact." Her words were a quiet storm, their intensity drawing a sharp intake of breath from the audience. The host, his face tight with unease, tried to intervene. "Ladies, let's bring this back to the trials. Press Secretary, can you address the specific charges?" His voice was strained, a last-ditch effort to regain control, but the question only fueled the fire. Leavitt's hands shook violently now, her voice barely holding together. "The charges? They're a distraction, a pile-on to silence him. You can't see it because you're part of the system that's doing it." Her accusation was desperate, her eyes darting to Crockett, then the host, as if searching for an ally. But the room felt hostile, the weight of Crockett's presence overwhelming. Crockett's eyes narrowed, her voice rising with controlled fury. "Part of the system? I've spent my career dismantling the parts of the system that chew up people who look like me. Trump's not dismantling anything, he's just mad it's finally biting him. You're defending a man who'd throw you under the bus in a heartbeat." Her words were a blade, sharp and personal, and Leavitt's face crumpled, a tear escaping down her cheek. The studio was silent, the tension so thick it felt like it could snap. Leavitt's breaths came in ragged bursts, her voice barely a whisper. "You don't know me. You don't know what I believe. You're just bullying me." The word hung in the air, fragile but loaded, and the audience stirred, a murmur rippling through the room. Crockett's face softened for a split second, but her voice remained firm. "Bullying? No, Karoline. I'm telling you the truth. And it's hard because you've been fed a script. Trump's script. You're young, you're smart, but you're in over your head defending a man who doesn't care about you." Her words were both a challenge and a plea, and the room felt smaller, the air electric with their weight. Leavitt's hands flew to her face, wiping at her tears, her voice breaking. I can't do this." Her words were a gasp, her body trembling as she pushed back from the desk. The host's eyes widened, his voice urgent. "Press Secretary, are you all right?" But Leavitt was already standing, her chair scraping loudly, her face a mask of anguish. Crockett watched, her expression unreadable, as the studio braced for what came next. The Fox News studio was a pressure cooker, the air thick with the aftermath of Karoline Leavitt's breaking point. Her chair screeched against the floor as she stood, tears streaking her face, her voice a broken whisper. I can't do this." The host's frantic question, "Press secretary, are you all right?" hung unanswered as Leavitt's trembling form dominated the frame. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat still, her gaze steady but unreadable, a silent force in the chaos. The audience held its breath, the crew frozen as the confrontation reached its explosive climax. Leavitt's hands dropped from her face, her eyes wild with a mix of shame and defiance. "You think you've won, don't you?" she spat, her voice shaking but laced with venom. "You think tearing me down on live TV makes you right? You're just another politician playing to the cameras." Her words were a desperate swing, an attempt to reclaim some shred of dignity, but they faltered under the weight of her visible collapse. Crockett's expression hardened, her voice calm but piercing. "This isn't about winning, Karoline. It's about truth. You came here to defend a man who's built a career on lies, and now you're crumbling because you know it's a losing fight. I'm not your enemy. His script is." Her words were measured, each one landing like a stone, and the studio felt smaller, the tension suffocating. Leavitt's face twisted, her voice rising in a raw, unsteady cry. "You don't get to tell me what I know. I'm here for the people who believe in him, who see him as their voice. You're just trying to humiliate me." Her hands clenched into fists, her body swaying slightly, as if the effort to stand upright was costing her everything. The host, his face pale, tried to intervene. "Press secretary, please. Let's take a moment." But Crockett cut him off, her voice steady, commanding the room. "Let her speak. She's been reading Trump's lines all night. Let's hear her own words now." Her challenge was bold, her eyes locked on Leavitt, daring her to rise or fall under the pressure. Leavitt's breath hitched, her eyes darting to the cameras, then back to Crockett. "You want my words? Fine. I'm done. I'm done being your punching bag, done defending something you'll never understand." Her voice broke, a sob escaping as she tore off her mic, the small device clattering to the desk. The sound echoed. In the silent studio, a punctuation to her unraveling. Crockett leaned forward, her voice low but resonant. "You're not my punching bag, Karoline. You're a casualty of Trump's game. He sent you out here to fight a battle he's already lost, and you're paying the price. Go back to your team. Tell them the truth hurts." Her words were both a rebuke and a release, their weight settling over the room like a final verdict. Leavitt froze, her eyes wide, as if Crockett's words had struck something deep. For a moment she seemed to waver, her lips parting as if to respond. But then her shoulders slumped, her face crumpling in defeat. Without another word she turned and stormed toward the studio exit, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. The door slammed behind her, the sound reverberating like a gavel. The host, visibly shaken, turned to the camera. "Well, folks, that was unprecedented. Congresswoman, any final thoughts?" His voice was unsteady, his usual polish gone, as he tried to salvage the moment. Crockett sat back, her expression calm but resolute. "I didn't come here to break anyone. I came to speak for the people who've been fighting for justice their whole lives, not just when it suits them. Trump's trials aren't about a rigged system. They're about accountability. And tonight, we saw what happens when you face that truth head-on." Her voice was steady, triumphant without gloating, and the audience erupted in a mix of applause and murmurs. The cameras panned to the empty chair where Leavitt had sat, the mic still lying on the desk, a silent testament to the confrontation's toll. The host, struggling to regain his footing, managed a weak smile. We'll be right back after this." But the words felt hollow, the moment already sealed. Crockett's gaze lingered on the empty chair, a flicker of resolve in her eyes as the studio lights dimmed, the debate's echoes lingering in the air.